Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another amazing episode of the Jarvis Podcast. I am your host, Stephen Jarvis, and today we are talking about the 2006 football film We Are Marshall. We Are Marshall is a 2006 American biographical sports drama film directed by MCG. It depicts the aftermath of the 1970 plane crash that killed 75 people, 37 players of the Marshall University Thundering Herd football team, 5 coaches, 2 athletic trainers, the athletic director, 25 boosters, and the airplane crew of 5. Matthew McConaughey stars as head coach Jack Lingill, with Matthew Fox as assistant coach William Red Dawson, David Stratham as University President Donald Dedmond, and Robert Patrick as ill-fated Marshall head coach Rick Tully. Then Governor of Georgia Sonny Perdue has a cameo role as an East Carolina University football coach. It was scored by Christoph Beck and written by Jamie Linden. The film addressed rebuilding the program and the healing that the community undergoes. Dr. H. Keith Spears was the Marshall University consultant. So the movie begins on the evening of November 14th, 1970. Southern Airways Flight 932 McDonnell Douglas DC-9 chartered by Marshall University to transport the Thundering Herd football team back to Huntington, West Virginia, following their 17-14 defeat to the East Carolina University Pirates, clips trees on a ridge just 1 mile short of the runway at Tri-State Airport in Credo, West Virginia, and crashes into a nearby gully, killing all 75 passengers aboard. The deceased include the 37 players, head coach Rick Tully, and 5 members of the coaching staff: Charles E. Kautz, Marshall's athletic director, team athletic trainer Jim Schoer, and his assistant Donald Tackett, sports information director and radio play-by-play announcer Gene Morehouse. 25 boosters and 5 crew members are all killed. In the wake of the tragedy, it shows not only a university, but people that are tied to the football team, tied to that town. They're in mourning. And some of the people feel that they shouldn't continue a football program, that they should cancel it, wait a few years, possibly bring it back. But one of the football players realizes that, hey, if they do that, they all lose their scholarships, even though the university tells them that, hey, we'll honor your scholarships, you don't have to worry about it. The football player is like, I don't believe that, and Nate Ruffin, one of the football players, is like, you need to round up everyone. We need to show that we are unified in this and to keep the football program going. Well, Nate Ruffin pretty much walks in on the board of Marshall and says, hey, I got something I want to say, but I'm not going to say it. He shows a crowd out there that are chanting, we are Marshall. And he says, and the president of the university says, I don't know how I'm even going to start. And Nate Ruffin says, how about you start by getting us a coach? And the coaching search, everyone turns it down because they know that it's going to be so hard to have to try and get boosters, try and get an athletic director, try and fill a coaching staff, and even a competitive team. And back when the movie was based on in the 70s, you couldn't play freshmen. So when the team finally finds their head coach in a coach by the name of Jack Lingill, he pretty much gets Red Dawson back, who was one of 2 surviving members of the previous coaching staff, who went on a recruiting trip and therefore was spared, losing his life on the in the plane crash. And Jack Langell and Red Dawson managed to rebuild the team, even though they lost a lot of their prospects to the West Virginia University Mountaineers. Donald Dedman, the university president, later travels to Kansas City, where he pleads with the NCAA to waive their rule prohibiting freshmen from playing varsity football, a rule which had been abolished in 1968 for all sports except for football and basketball, and would be permanently abolished for those sports in 1972. Dedman returns victorious. The team is pretty much composed of 18 returning players, 3 varsity, 15 sophomores, and walk-on athletes from other martial sports programs. Due to their lack of experience, the new young Thundering Herd ends up losing its first game 29-6 to the Morehead State Eagles. The loss weighs heavily on Dawson and Ruffin, who had been hurt on the first play of the game. The Herd's first post-crash victory is a 15-13 win against Xavier University in the first home game of the season. Hours after the victory, a grief-stricken Coach Dawson remains in the team's locker room in disbelief over the Herd's first win since the crash. He walks out to a still full stadium of Marshall fans who share his astonishment and don't want to leave the stadium early. Also, in this movie, you see that the team and the town is still kind of like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. Even though they bring it back, the program back, it's a constant reminder when they lose that, maybe this wasn't a good idea. But when they finally win a game, it's kind of like, hey, we're a new team. And Matthew McConaughey, I have to say, this is one of the best built casts I've seen, in my opinion, that I've seen in a football movie, because it's just the emotion that when he brings the team to the site or the memorial that they have erected to the team that was lost, to the coaches, to the boosters, to the athletic director and all that, and says, the mourning stops. We are going to rise from the ashes. And I mean, it's just such a powerful speech before they finally win a game that it's just like, wow. And the team finally buys into the concept of we are Marshall, and they're chanting next to their fallen teammates and all that, saying in unison, we are Marshall, we are Marshall. And this movie is literally, I would say, probably the closest you would get to the real story. The only thing is that they have to speed it up. And I'm sure it wasn't a speedy process at all, because you got to realize they had lost that whole team on that plane crash. And they had to rebuild from square one. So, I mean, it was pretty much, if they couldn't have done it, they probably cancel the program and we never have a Marshall football team, which later would have such great players as Byron Leftwich, Randy Moss played for the team, among many others. And I honestly, if you haven't seen this movie, I give it a chance. It's a great movie. I think anyone that has seen it loves it, and if you haven't seen it, you'll love it too. It's a great movie. Go check it out and have fun with it. I'm not going to spoil it for everyone, because I feel like if I do, I'm taking away from that experience that a lot of people will have with that movie. And it's such a great movie. It really is. So go check it out. I'm Steven Jarvis. This is the Jarvis Podcast, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye for now.